My humble respect to Guru Mahan, Guru Piran Sivasangran, Guru Piran Neo, fellow Jnanis. Today we are covering a new chapter called Faith and Love. I'm going to today focus on faith, what does faith actually means. In all our previous satsangs, we touched on this topic, in a kind of a light touch. And you'll see that faith has very deep meaning to it, and it is an important component or important aspects of our spiritual journey. And why, we looked at all the things that we do to build our spiritual compass, spoke about the 10 capitals of life, living a kind of a spiritual, kind of an enlightened and fun-filled life. Well, one of the things is that to achieve that, one needs to have faith. And there are two aspects to faith. Here, before we start, we need to define what faith actually means, right? And for different people, faith means different things. And it can lead to different outcomes. So let's, explore this notion or this, thing that we always go through, in our lives. What is faith? There are many definitions, and there are two definitions to what faith is. One is having complete trust or confidence in someone or something, right? So here, we have a kind of a feeling of knowing something really well, having full confidence. This is one aspect. The other one is you have a strong belief in a particular doctrine or particular faith or conviction. This is having a kind of a belief, but you may not have a proof to it. You say, okay, somebody said this, okay, I believe that person or believe the teaching. Whereas the first one is that actually you have complete trust. You have gone through it very carefully, you thought through it very carefully, and say, okay, there is a basis to this, right? So you have that confidence based on, your own understanding, exploration, examination, research. So this aspect is, called the vichara. This is the introspection, contemplation, reflection, meditation. Sometimes people have blind faith, without, putting in a lot of thinking and introspection to understand why a particular, experience or particular practice is put in place. And another one is through deep exploration. So one goes through the vichara. Vichara is actually introspection, contemplation, reflection, meditation. And once you understand it, you hold on to it. The second one is actually about achara, rituals that may, people do things in a very ritualistic way. You may not have an understanding of why this is. And because somebody said this, so you followed it, you trust that person, and you follow the particular practice, right? So again, you may not have the evidence for it, but you just go by trust. So here, there are two definitions, and I'm going to go through both because we go through in our lives these definitions, right? So the first one I'm going to cover is actually on the first aspects of this. So the first one is actually about having full trust and confidence in someone or something. When we have full confidence and trust on someone based on not just what they are saying, but really trying to think through very carefully why they're saying this, looking at their experiences, analyzing their experiences, analyzing their own way of life, and why is this that they have, described this? Is it relevant to me? Would it make a difference to my life? And then testing it out yourself. This is one aspect, right? So someone said something, okay, I'll take it and, let me explore it. Or something. We all believe there is a higher force. the body is something which is very different from the limited version, right? The body is a limited version of who we are, but there is something much more deeper, much more, uh, what we call have that deeper meaning to our material life. And it could be a belief, but when we start exploring and start experiencing this, we have that confidence and trust that builds in. There is a journey that we need to take to be able to understand this substratum. So this is based on evidence and experiential learning. Now, what does that mean? So one can have a trust or confidence in someone, but validated by experiential learning, or something that we possess, or something that is in nature that we have a good understanding of. And this is why it is through deep introspection. So I want to take the first part. So we see that, so I want to talk about the definition of this faith from this notion of, uh, complete, having the trust and the confidence. The first thing is that, in all the discussions that we have had, before you trust anything, one needs to trust, have faith in yourself, right? What does that mean? In all the teachings, we covered in this teachings, in Mahan's teachings, in all the other scriptures, everything is centered around the self. This component in us that gives us consciousness, that component in us that gives us existence, this component in us that continuously learns, unlearn, relearn, and become enlightened, right? So everything that we experience, whatever people say, whatever we read, whatever we learn, everything happens in a substratum within us itself, right? And this is what all the scriptures speak about. This is what Mahans and all the great saints. So we have to have that understanding of what they're saying, not taking in blind faith, but saying, okay, if there's a component in here, how do I discover? Is there methods that are shown, right? So that everything, whatever the person, the experiences, the events, everything takes place not outside us, but within us. And that faith that we have in ourselves helps us to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And when we do that, we see that, that faith in ourselves actually helps us to become better informed. This is what we call vichara, is actually we become more and more enlightened about the presence within us and the presence that permeates everything else. So the first thing that whatever we do, we must have faith in ourselves, right? That is number one. That's the first faith that one needs to have, right? The second one is that faith is going to help us understand our inner resources, right? There is something in us that is special. There's something in us that is powerful. That faith helps us to overcome any battles, from ignorance to anger to hatred to jealousy to greed, all these ordinary human being battles. People that they don't like, hate, all those things, right? So the faith in ourselves helps us to be a knower, acquire the knowledge, to be self-sufficient, and to take on any battles and become enlightened by it. And that's what the faith. So faith in oneself is so important before having faith in anything else. And that's what we've been speaking about in all the scriptures, in all the Mahan's chapters. Faith in yourself also leads ultimately to that divine aspect of us, that universal aspect of us, that subtle aspects of us which our gross senses are unable to pick, but a refined mind is able to touch. So we feel a sense of specialness, a sense of goodness, a sense of godliness, a sense of a wow, right? And this is what that having that faith, and that you're able to overcome any challenges. We're able to know about anything, including God realization. The other aspect of this faith is confidence. You have the confidence to attain anything in life if you put your mind to it. And that's faith, including, realizing God within oneself, right? So that's what faith is about. It's not about something outside or external. It's about the understanding, awareness of a presence within all of us that gives us consciousness and existence. If you knew that, you see that you have good understanding of everything in life. And this is what Mahan tries to speak about in his own experience. He documents this chapter. But if we don't have faith in ourselves, the battle is lost, right? When we don't have confidence in ourselves, whatever task you take, you will not fulfill in the fullest way, right? So faith is the most important component, right? You may be the smallest person battling a big, adversary, but with faith, one acquires the knowledge to be self-sufficient, to have that confidence and courage to take on the biggest demon, and knowing that within you nothing will be lost. The divinity cannot be defeated or killed, or cannot be suppressed. And that confidence itself will enable you to take that demon out very easily. But when the start of that battle that we have, we may be very big, but even a small adversary will fail. Even a small battle in life we fail, right? So we see that faith is so important for us to have that confidence and the knowledge to understand the power within us to be able to live an enlightened life, to be able to see everything is integrated, and that faith itself will give us smart living. Smart living means seamless integration, moral. We are disciplined in doing the things that we are supposed to do. We are aware of that divine, powerful presence in us. We become resilient, and finally we become transcendental. That's what smart means. Live a smart life, right? Even in the battle, if we lose, we are able to pick up the pieces, we're able to learn, and then come back another day to take on the demon, right? Or that challenge that we have in our lives, right? It's like a bird, right? It forms a home, brings all the pieces together and forms. And when humans break it, or things, when it breaks, it rebuilds again. You break it, it'll rebuild again. It never stops rebuilding. And that's what that confidence of the self, the faith in the self does. No matter how much you push back, you still will move forward. This is one aspect of faith. Mahan documents that faith in his guru, didn't want to disappoint his guru in the narrative that is written in this chapter. So here is a very nice quote on faith. He says that, Rumi says that once the seed of faith takes root, once you have faith in yourself, it cannot be blown away, even by the strongest wind. You hold on to it, and that's what gives you traction. That's the blessing, right? That's the miracle that, Mahan and Guru Sangha is saying, don't expect a miracle, be the miracle. Don't expect an angel, be the angel. So this is one aspect of faith. The second aspect is a strong belief and conviction, but you have not experienced it. It's a very theoretical understanding of things. Sometimes it's blind faith. So I want to take that extreme of blind faith, what blind faith means. and how to transform that blind faith into smart faith in the sense that you're fully illumined. So here it is, right? So I want to cover this notion of blind faith. When we believe something without analysis or introspection and contemplation and reflection, we don't learn. Once we believe something, learning stops. We actually mortgage our intelligence, right? When somebody says something or when you're asked to do a particular practice, ask why. Always ask question, why am I doing this? Do a little bit of research. What's the benefit of this? And you'll see that the answer will be very clear. There must be something that there must be some benefit to this practice. If you know the benefit, you see that the practice becomes more meaningful. But if you cannot find the answer, maybe the practice has got no benefits to you, and don't waste your time doing it. Do something else that is beneficial. So the moment you have blind faith, you've already stopped learning. Blind faith will not be able to overcome challenges. You will not be able to overcome the challenges because you are believing something that may or may not work for you, right? So it may have worked for someone else, but may not work for you because the chemistry and the dynamics that is running in your life may be very different. So you have to test it out. You have to analyze it. You have to see why it works for that person and what is it that I need to do to work. But if you have blind faith, you see that you'll not be able to overcome the challenges through this belief system, blind faith. That is why you see, how come it worked for that person but didn't work for me? Because whatever that they are practicing is attuned to their own lifestyle and chemistry, but may or may not work for you. And most often it will not work for you because, one needs to have that experiential learning. The other aspect is that when the learning stops, we stop our own creativity, our own innovativeness. Or when we test it out, when we have full faith in ourselves to be able to discover, I spoke about the 10 capitals before, and one of the capitals is creative capital. When we have that full, confidence in the self, the spiritual capital emerges, and that generates all the remaining capitals. But when we have blind faith, we don't learn. We don't experience the force within us, the inner resource in ourselves. Hence, we find it difficult to overcome any challenges or find creative solutions to overcome these challenges. And that's why you see that most people try many things because other people have said, and they find it very difficult and they give up. Blind faith will not help you discover the power within you. The guru can only tell you, show you the path until and unless you test it out and have that experiential knowledge. Yes, the guru can tell you this and you take it by blind faith that this is what the guru said or this is what the scripture said. If you don't put it to practice, you will not discover it. So the guru's books or manuals or teachings are to enable you to have faith in yourself, not the blind faith in the guru, right? So if you have blind faith in the guru, you would high probability that you will not achieve the outcome. But if you have faith in the guru and test it out and faith in yourself to be able to understand, to be able to put in the effort, you see that the experience that the guru has experienced it himself through his own effort, you would be able to experience it in your own context, in your own life. And maybe that experience would be much more magnified for you than what you see that experience of the guru. Nothing like having a first-hand experience. Mahan spoke about enlightenment. Buddha spoke about enlightenment. Great, it's very nice to read, but it still falls short of you getting that experience. So one needs to transcend from that blind faith to the faith in oneself to be able to test it out. Blind faith, leads to one being reliant on others. They don't become self-sufficient. Mahan always said, that I know all of you all have respect for me, for, his teachings and his meditation, his I God book. He says, I would rather you use this knowledge to have absolute faith in yourself than putting your absolute faith in me. He says, I have experienced that self. I have absolute faith in myself. You should not have absolute faith in me. You should use my experience to test it out in your life and have absolute faith in yourself. This is what a true guru will say. So here it is that, yes, having trust and confidence on someone's teachings or someone's way of life, until and unless you put it to practice, experience it, take what is relevant for you, leave out what is not necessary, doesn't work for you, harness it and discover the guru in you. I like this quote by Neil deGrasse Tyson. He says that blind faith is a sure way to get lost in the darkness. What he's saying is that blind faith is what leads us to that state of ignorance, right? So one needs to step out of this. Yes, somebody would have told you this. Let's explore this. Let's put it to test. Let's try it. See if it works. Under what circumstances? That's what introspection, contemplation, reflection, meditation. That's vichara. Moving from the achara to the vichara. And this is what all the great saints and sages, all the great masters that walked upon this earth, all spiritual teaching teach us that. So I want to give you the dual definition. This one you have to think a little bit more harder, right? He says faith has two parts, right? He says in faith there is enough light for those who want to believe. Believe in what? When one has that light to believe that illumines you, not outside, but illumines you to that which gives you that enlightenment and consciousness, it throws that light, it opens up that awareness. But also faith could also have people clinging on to other people's enlightenment experience and not making any progress. So he says also that enough shadows to blind those who don't. So through faith of a guru or a teaching is to help you to learn from this and step out of the shadows of them and discover yourself. On the other hand, many people become close to great things but remain in the shadow, blinded by their own illumination, that which illumines them. And so there is a very subtle difference between the two. There's a subtle difference between faith. Let me repeat again. Faith in Guru and the teachings are not in the person, but in the knowledge and the wisdom that enables them to live an enlightened life. That's what we should be taking, testing it out, trying it out in our own life, having that experience and say, now I experience what Mahan and the prophets have experienced. They have experienced in their own life. I've taken their lessons, put it to practice, I've refined it, and this is the experience that I am getting. And that is what true faith is, which Mahan tries to illumine us in this chapter. Sandosham.